Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into something pretty intriguing.
Yeah.
12 signs from God that your faith is being tested and few recognize. That's our source material, and we're going to be really unpacking this. We're not just going to skim the surface. We're going to really get into the nitty-gritty of what these signs mean, and maybe even how they can actually help your faith grow stronger.
For sure.
And stick around to the end, because we found a hidden 13th sign that you're not going to want to miss.
I love it.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Sign number 1, feeling of loneliness and abandonment.
Okay.
So everyone feels lonely sometimes, right?
Right.
What makes this a test of faith?
Well, it really forces you to look at where your faith is when you feel most alone.
Okay.
Is it in rituals? Is it in community? Or is it a deeper internal connection with the divine? And we see this even in biblical figures. I mean, King David, even Jesus himself felt this. Remember David's cry, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Right.
I mean, that's not just despair. That's a wrestling match with the very nature of belief.
That's deep. So how do we move through that feeling of abandonment?
Well, the text suggests, leaning into prayer, not just as a plea for help, but as a way to honestly voice your doubts and fears.
Okay.
It also talks about finding solace in community, remembering those who have walked a similar path.
Right.
Think about it. Everyone has felt this at some point, throughout history. You're part of a lineage of seekers.
Wow, that's comforting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so sign number 2 is facing injustices and persecutions.
Yeah.
And this one feels especially relevant right now.
Absolutely.
There's so much going on in the world.
Yeah.
So how does this test our faith?
Well, this sign isn't about just passively accepting injustice.
Okay.
It's really a call to action to examine what active love looks like in the face of wrong. So it's not just oh, well.
Got to turn the other cheek.
It's, is it speaking out? Is it quiet resistance? The challenge is figuring out how to live your values, even when it's hard.
Aligning your actions with your beliefs, even when the easy path is to stay silent.
Exactly. And knowing that even if earthly justice is imperfect, your commitment to what's right reflects a deeper faith.
Okay, this next one, I think we've all experienced this.
Oh, yeah.
Financial or material trials. Money worries can really shake your faith, can't they?
They really can.
What does the text say about this?
Well, this sign, it really pushes you to think about what truly matters.
Okay.
The text uses the story of Job, who lost everything but his faith. That's an extreme example, of course. But it asks, where do you place your value? Is it in your possessions or something more enduring?
Yeah, you can't take it with you. So it's about reassessing priorities.
Yes. And it also encourages generosity even when you feel like you have little to give. Sometimes the act of giving, however small, can actually strengthen your faith.
I like that. Now, this next one I think is something that a lot of people struggle with.
For sure.
Spiritual and intellectual doubts.
Yeah.
Is it okay to question your faith?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, even the Apostle Thomas doubted Jesus' resurrection until he saw the proof. Doubt isn't the enemy of faith. Suppressing it is. This sign encourages you to explore those questions.
Okay.
Dig into theological discussions, research different perspectives.
So engage with your doubts rather than just trying to shove them down.
Yeah, think of it as a workout.
Okay.
For your mind and spirit.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, this next sign is a tough one. Facing illnesses or physical sufferings.
Yeah.
How can this be a test of faith?
Well, this sign acknowledges that even the most faithful experience pain and hardship. It doesn't offer any easy answers, but it emphasizes the power of grace, even when healing doesn't come in the way you expect. It's a reminder that your worth isn't tied to your health or your physical abilities.
That's powerful.
And it encourages seeking support, both medical and spiritual.
So not one or the other.
They're not mutually exclusive. Taking care of your whole self is part of nurturing your faith.
It's all connected.
Okay.
Let's talk about temptation to commit sins.
Okay.
We all face temptation, right?
We do.
What makes it a test of faith?
Well, it's not about being perfect. It's about the choices you make when you are faced with those urges. Do you give in easily, or do you draw on your faith for strength? The text highlights the importance of knowing your triggers, building a support system, and having a plan to resist.
It's like a spiritual game plan?
Exactly. And recognizing that stumbling doesn't mean failing.
Right.
It means that you have the opportunity to learn and grow from your mistakes.
Yeah, you're human. Okay, let's move on to relational trials and conflicts.
Okay.
Conflict is inevitable in any relationship. So how does this become a test of faith?
Well, it challenges you to apply your beliefs about forgiveness, compassion, and understanding in those difficult moments. Think about Joseph forgiving his brothers who sold him into slavery.
Right.
That is a powerful example of how faith can lead to healing.
That's amazing.
Even in the face of deep betrayal.
So it's not about avoiding conflict altogether.
No.
It's about navigating it with your faith as a guide.
Yes, and remembering that forgiveness is as much for you as it is for the other person.
Right.
It frees you from resentment, and it opens the door to reconciliation.
And sometimes, even when things are relatively calm in our lives, we might experience a feeling of spiritual stagnation.
Yes.
What does this tell us about our faith?
Well, it's a reminder that faith is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
It's natural to go through periods where things feel stale or routine.
Right.
This sign is an invitation to shake things up.
Okay.
To try new spiritual practices, explore different theological perspectives,
right,
or even find new ways to connect with your faith community.
So it's about actively seeking ways to reignite that spark.
Yes.
Keep your faith journey fresh and engaging.
Exactly. And those periods of stagnation can actually lead to breakthroughs in understanding and growth.
Okay. This one kind of hits home in today's world.
It does.
Society's skepticism.
Yeah.
How do you hold on to your faith when it feels like the world is questioning everything you believe in?
It's a real challenge.
Yeah.
And the text acknowledges that instead of getting defensive, it encourages you to be prepared to explain your beliefs with gentleness and respect, letting your actions speak louder than words.
So living your faith authentically, letting that be your testimony.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone.
Right.
There are countless others who share your beliefs and are navigating these same challenges.
Next up is life changes and transitions, something we all experience at some point.
Yes.
How can change be a test of faith?
Well, change, even positive change, can be unsettling, right? It disrupts our sense of security and forces us to adapt. This sign encourages you to see these transitions as opportunities to deepen your trust in God's plan.
So like surrendering to the journey.
Yes.
And trusting that God is guiding your steps, even when the path ahead seems uncertain.
Precisely. And those times of uncertainty often lead to the most profound growth.
Okay, this is a big one, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Lack of answers to prayer. Why does it feel like our prayers sometimes go unanswered?
It's important to remember that God's timing isn't always our timing.
Right.
Just because you don't see an immediate answer doesn't mean God isn't listening. This sign encourages you to keep a prayer journal. Okay. To track your requests and reflect on how God has worked in your life. Okay. Even in subtle ways.
So recognizing those little miracles, those unexpected blessings, that might not be like the answer you were hoping for, but are still evidence of God's presence.
And it can be a powerful practice in cultivating patience and trust.
All right. We're on our last official sign before the big reveal.
Right.
Trials of character and integrity. What's the lesson here?
This sign emphasizes the importance of living by your values. Okay. Even when it's tough. Remember Joseph. He chose prison over compromising his integrity. Right. This sign challenges you to be consistent in your actions. Right. Seek guidance when faced with ethical dilemmas. Okay. And to remember that true strength lies in upholding your beliefs, even when it's inconvenient or unpopular.
So walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. Right. And building a reputation of trustworthiness and integrity that reflects your faith in action.
I'm dying to know what's this hidden 13th sign.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, hit me.
The silence of God.
Whoa. Okay, we're going to have to unpack that one next time.
We sure will. Until then, think about this. What if this silence is the ultimate test of faith, pushing you to find a deeper, more personal connection with the divine?
That's a lot to ponder. We'll be back soon to explore the profound meaning behind the silence of God. Welcome back, everyone. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking a lot about that 13th sign.
Yeah.
The silence of God.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful concept and honestly kind of unnerving.
It's definitely one of the most challenging aspects of faith. You know, we're so used to seeking answers, guidance, reassurance. When we're met with silence, it can be unsettling.
It makes you question everything, right? Like, are you even on the right path? Is anyone listening?
But what if, and this is where it gets interesting, what if that silence is actually the most fertile ground for growth?
Okay, how could silence possibly equal growth? Seems like the opposite.
Well, think about it. You know those times when you're struggling with a problem, you've asked for advice, prayed about it, but you're still waiting for that clear answer.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. It's so frustrating.
But often it's in those moments of quiet reflection when we strip away all the noise and expectations that the true insight emerges. It's like our spirit needs that space to process, to wrestle with the unknown, and arrive at a deeper understanding.
So it's not that God isn't speaking, it's that we're not always listening in the right way.
Exactly. We're so conditioned to expect a booming voice from the heavens.
Right.
But what if God speaks through the rustle of leaves? A chance encounter, a sudden realization in the stillness of your own heart.
That's beautiful. It makes me think about all the signs we've discussed, loneliness, injustice, even those financial trials. Maybe those are also forms of silence, forcing us to turn inward and rely on something deeper than external validation.
You're getting it. Each of those signs in its own way can be seen as an invitation to cultivate a more resilient internal faith.
Okay.
One that's not shaken by circumstances or dependent on constant reassurance.
So it's not about the absence of challenges, but how we choose to respond to them. The silence isn't empty. It's full of potential for growth if we're willing to lean into it.
And that takes courage, doesn't it? To sit with the unknown, to trust that even when you can't hear it or see it, there's deeper wisdom at work.
I think a lot of people would say that that's blind faith. What's the difference between blind faith and the kind of trust that you're describing?
Well, blind faith is passive acceptance without questioning. The trust we're talking about is born out of experience. It comes from wrestling with doubt and ultimately choosing to believe despite the lack of tangible proof.
It's like a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it. The more you lean into that trust, even when it's hard, the more resilient your faith becomes.
Exactly. And each time you navigate a challenge, each time you sit with the silence and emerge with a deeper understanding, you're proving to yourself the strength of that inner compass.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of these signs, even the silence of God, can be seen as stepping stones on the path of spiritual growth. But it still feels kind of abstract. How do we actually apply this in our daily lives?
That's a great question, and it's one we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. But for now, I want you to consider this. What if, instead of dreading the silence, you started to embrace it? What if you saw it as an opportunity to connect with a deeper part of yourself, a part that's always connected to something bigger, even when you feel like you're all alone?
That's a powerful thought. It's like turning the whole concept of faith being tested on its head.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing these signs as threats, we start to view them as invitations to go deeper, to grow stronger, to discover a more resilient and authentic faith. We'll be back soon to explore practical ways to cultivate that kind of faith. So stick around. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So we've made it to the final part of our exploration of the 13 signs your faith is being tested.
We have.
And we've covered a lot.
We have.
But the question remains, how do we actually cultivate a faith that can withstand all these challenges?
Well, it's not about adding more rituals or rules.
Right.
It's really about cultivating inner strength and resilience. And that takes practice like exercising a muscle.
Okay, so what are some spiritual workouts we can do to build that kind of strength?
Well, one of the most powerful and often overlooked practices is simply being still. Carving out time for silence and solitude away from all the constant noise and distractions of daily life.
You know, it's funny, silence can feel almost radical in our world.
It can.
But it makes sense. How can you hear anything, even your own inner voice, if there's always something vying for your attention?
Exactly. Silence creates space for reflection, for listening to that deeper wisdom that's often drowned out by the external world. It's in those quiet moments that we can begin to connect with the divine on a more personal level.
So it's not about emptying your mind. It's more about creating space for something deeper to kind of bubble up.
Precisely. And from that place of stillness, prayer becomes less about petitioning and more about a genuine conversation with the divine, sharing your joys and sorrows, expressing gratitude, even just sitting in the presence of something larger than yourself.
It's like shifting from a transactional relationship to one of genuine intimacy.
Exactly.
And speaking of connection,
yes,
another powerful workout is nurturing relationships with other believers.
Absolutely. It's about surrounding yourself with people who share your values, who challenge you to grow, and who can offer support when your faith is tested.
Because we talked about how loneliness can be a sign of faith being tested.
Exactly.
So finding that sense of belonging within a community is huge.
It's a reminder that you're not alone in this journey. And just like a muscle needs proper fuel to grow, so does your spirit.
So along with silence and connection, what else can we do to nourish our faith?
Well, engaging with sacred texts and spiritual teachings can be incredibly enriching, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, or even writings of mystics and philosophers. These texts offer wisdom and guidance that have resonated with people for centuries.
It's like having a conversation across time.
It is.
With the greatest minds, gleaning insights from their experiences and struggles.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of nature.
Oh, yeah.
Spending time in nature, whether it's a walk in the woods or simply sitting under a tree, can be incredibly grounding and restorative.
There's something about being in nature that just puts everything in perspective.
It connects you to something larger than yourself, to the rhythms of creation and a sense of awe and wonder that can really reignite your faith. And perhaps most importantly, don't forget to put your faith into action.
Okay, so it's not just about believing, it's about doing.
Exactly. Faith without action is like a seed that never gets planted.
Right.
Find ways to express your beliefs in tangible ways.
Okay.
Through service to others, acts of kindness, speaking out against injustice.
So aligning your actions with your values, letting your faith be a guiding force in your daily life.
Exactly. And remember, these are just a few examples. The key is to find practices that resonate with you, that feel authentic and meaningful.
Creating your own personalized spiritual fitness plan that supports your unique journey.
And just like with physical fitness, consistency is key.
Okay.
Small daily actions repeated over time can have a profound impact on your spiritual well-being.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one takeaway you hope listeners will carry with them?
I hope they remember that faith is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
It's not about being perfect or having all the answers.
Right.
It's about showing up, being open to growth, and trusting that even when you feel lost or alone, you're never truly abandoned.
That's beautiful. And remember, the next time you feel your faith being tested, don't despair. Embrace the challenge. Lean into the discomfort. And know that on the other side of that struggle lies a stronger, more resilient faith than you could have ever imagined. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and keep seeking,